I'll never be successful because I don't know how to talk to people. This is something that I heard someone say online recently, and I really feel for this person because communication is something that we do every day. And it's really our idea of what it means to communicate that can get in our way. What do I mean by that? Well, believe it or not, communication is something that happens naturally. The more we try to interfere with it, with our conscious thinking mind, the more that kind of gums up the whole process, if you know what I mean. And so ultimately, it's when we begin to relax that our communication becomes more effective. And so, what happens if we're socially anxious? Well, as you can probably know, as you can probably tell, if you're watching this video, you probably have experience of what happens when you go into a conversation and anxiety begins to mount. Your communication begins to suffer. And why is that? Well, anxiety is having a lot on your mind. It's having a lot of thoughts on your mind. You see, when you go into a conversation, if you are not present and connected with that person you're communicating with, you're probably up in your own head thinking, what do they think of me? What am I saying? Am I saying the right thing? Is this, do I look stupid? All of these things. And it's those thoughts that you're paying attention to rather than the person right in front of you or people, right? In the case of public speaking or speaking in front of many. And so when it comes to being successful, if you talk to uh, successful public speakers, ones that seem really good and really natural, if you ask them if they get nervous, most likely they'll say yes. But if you ask them, what are they thinking when they're on stage giving a presentation, the really good ones will probably say, nothing. I wasn't thinking. I was just doing. And if you think about any meaningful conversation, maybe you've had a conversation with a good friend over a cup of coffee, or, it's just someone you feel really comfortable with. You're not thinking about what you're saying. You're just there. And you're just opening your mouth and saying what comes out, right? In other words, you're speaking more heart to heart. You're speaking more soul to soul. And I believe if we can begin to do that, taking manipulation, there's a whole school out there that says you need to manipulate and talk to people a certain way. I just don't buy that. I think you will be more successful if you are more true to yourself. Yes, it takes self-awareness. Yes, it takes intention, right? Uh, Manipulation in itself is not bad, but it's when we're trying to uh, coerce, right, somebody else into doing something that they probably don't want to do. That's where it gets phony and fake. Now, a lot of times when we are so anxious and we're feeling like we're never going to be successful because we can't communicate well, that's more often when we are really having a lot of thoughts of just not being good enough. We all have these from time to time. The key is to begin to recognize it and know that we all have these sort of psychological dilemmas in our head. And because they are running sort of underneath the surface, unconscious, they can be hard to find. And so one of the keys is to really slow down and begin to untie these psychological knots. And this is really one of my passions when I sit with my clients and work with them. It's getting them to slow down and come to their own realizations, their own ahas, and untangle those psychological knots.